It's better if you just believe. It's true. For those of you who read the Bible and consider yourselves to be Bible enthusiasts or Bible knowledgeable, remember those people that were in slavery in Egypt? Those people were just a few miles away from the promised land. Do you know why it took them so long to get to the promised land? 40 years? They didn't believe. Their minds were enslaved with a lack of belief. And so many times we don't realize that we're not believing. I mean, we can say all the time, I believe in God, I believe in God. But really what shows it is how your life is looking. Really what shows it is that if you have some kind of a slavery thing going on, if you have some kind of an identification with slavery, and that's not just from ancient times or from even 200 years ago times, but today times, if you are identifying that you are being dismissed, disused, dishonored, disrespected, if your mindset is totally around some idea that you are less than or you have less than, then you are still functioning in the Israelite kind of consciousness that does not believe. Because somehow the children of Adama, that's earth, the children of earth thought that they were merely dust. See, because they took certain things literally that they read. Now, if you think you're dust, then pretty much you think you belong under somebody's shoe, I suppose. Or perhaps on somebody's dust rag, I don't know. But I'm asking you, don't you want to dare to claim your divinity? Don't you want to know that you are not just poised to be stoned because you dare to proclaim your divinity? I understand that because it happened to Jesus, you're like, well, I don't really want everybody to think that I'm God, because if they think that I'm God, then they'll think I'm blasphemous, and if they think that I'm blasphemous, then they won't like me. So perhaps if we spent less time trying to figure out whether or not somebody likes us, accepts us, wants us, invites us, or even respects us, that we might start the conversation with, how do I feel about me? All right. See, Jesus the Christ knew that his true power came from heaven. And he became greater with the pressure. He became greater with the challenges. He became greater with even the betrayal. He came to know that even though these trials and tribulations were occurring in his experience, that they were only to purify him so that he could remember the essence of who he is as a son of God, as are we all sons and daughters of God. And so what I want you to know is that when Jesus was speaking of the kingdom, it wasn't about sovereignty over a particular land. It wasn't about sovereignty over matter at all. But it was about sovereignty over his thinking. So when he said, "Get thee behind me, Satan," Satan is Aramaic for crazy thinking. How many of y'all need to say, "Get thee behind crazy thinking"? With his identification of the inner kingdom, he was able to withstand stones. With his identification of his divinity, he was able to know that he was unbroken. Now see, you know, they didn't have quarries and them kind of things back in those days. They were full-on solid rocks. Okay? They weren't crushed down, they weren't ground or anything like that. They were heavy and they were hard. So that when life knocks you upside your head, in your chest, on your leg, in your arm, however it may come to you, at you, are you able to withstand the pain because something greater is within you that is awakening by every challenge? Or are you diminished by every pebble that crosses your path? See, the Course in Miracles says, I choose the joy of God instead of pain. And it's really understanding that pain is about a perspective that is not rooted in love. When pain is being experienced in any particular form, is proof of self-deception. Breathe. No, let me break it down, because sometimes, you know, the course is something that you need to understand, and I do teach it, and so we'll talk about more of that later. But the thing is, fear means that you don't believe. So that's why fear and love can't take place in the same space. So fear means that you don't believe God. You don't believe God is able. So when I get fear, I'm like, oh, is that what you're thinking? Because when I get fear, that means that there's a part of me that is misguided. There's an aspect that's running rampant in my mind that needs to be tamed. There's something that's going on that I have let run rampant in my mind too long, and then it needs to be dismissed. It needs to be dissolved back into the nothingness from whence it came. So understand that anything that is proclaiming pain must be false. And that includes in your body temple, and I'm going to talk about what the science of mind says about that as well. Because understand that you, as the holy child of God yourself, can release yourself from this bondage of thinking that you are not enough. You can release yourself from this bondage of thinking that whatever you're giving to the world is something that's not enough. Whatever it is that makes you think of all of these punitive things that might happen to you or that you should do to somebody else, whatever you're doing that you think that you are over this physical world is simply not the truth. Because what is happening is your identity needs to be acknowledged. And when you don't, what you see is what you think. Say to your neighbor, what you see is what you think. Yeah. You don't see people as they are, you see people as you are. I'm going to say that again for some of y'all that were still caught up. You don't see people as they are, you see people as you are. Now let me get you to understand that whatever this game is that we play when we are pretending that we are not a child of God is what happens when we are feeling like we don't have enough, that we don't get enough, that we don't get offered enough, that we don't get recognized enough. Let me tell you, Ernest Holmes says in the Science of Mind textbook on page 99, for those who may want to look it up, the simplest way to think of body is to realize that it is the objective manifestation of a subjective mind and consciousness. And if we are to be well and happy, not only the body, but the mind also must be peaceful and harmonious. If you got a pain in your back, your stomach, your heart, check in with your mind to see if your mind is peaceful and harmonious. And understand that all of this talk about peaceful and harmonious is in direct alignment with your prosperity. Because after all, your well-being is part of your prosperity. And understand that how we see ourselves currently is often through what we have and not who we are. Because see, if you're measuring yourself by how big your house is or how shiny your car is, if you're measuring yourself on somebody else's approval, somebody else's admiration, somebody else's acceptance, then you're looking the wrong way, because you need to look inside to the presence and power who is always cheering you on, always admiring you, always approving you, always loving you, despite your behavior. And see, I was reading from an interesting person online. He said the mind is the fighter, and the mind needs to be defeated, because whom you are fighting with is the weapon by which you have to fight. A great contradiction rises in the fact that against which you have to struggle is itself your weapon, the fighter as well as the enemy. So there is this battle that is going on that is your mind, and it is the battle. And so as long as you are continuing to think that it is something outside that you need to fight, then you're not going to win the battle that is happening in your mind. And I want you to know that a lot of times other people get affected by the battle that is going on in your mind. And we would appreciate it if you would just please tend to what you need to look at in your own mind. The science of mind says, you know, it's easy to believe that God is perfect, but we must also believe that the spiritual man is perfect. And since it is difficult to believe that the objective mind is perfect, we must confine our statements to a realization of the spiritual perfection of man. So it's easy to think of God being somewhere far away as perfect. It's easy to think that, you know, if I'm spiritual, that spiritual aspect of me is perfect. And it's easy to think that, you know what, everybody's perfect, and to mouth that as we have done with the Declaration of Principles. We've been mouthing a lot of that without really understanding what it means. But understand that when you have a realization of who you are, an embodiment of love itself, when you are aware of who you are an embodiment of, then the healing automatically takes place. Yesterday, we were here at a program called Listening from Love, and that was discussing a number of things around race, a number of challenges that we've been trying to work our minds around, people having their kids taken away from them, throwing them into cages, and I'm not going to even say like animals, because animals don't belong in cages either, but throwing them aside and locking them up and denying them not only of the quality of life that they're used to, but the love of life that has been nourishing them and nurturing them for as long as they know. And it's also a conversation about, you know, things like barbecuing while black, or using your cell phone in your grandma's backyard. And what is this happening inside of me internally that I am not able to be with this because I haven't reconciled that these people people are wounded and do not know that they are wounded, and the thing that triggers me is my own wounds. And to understand that we cannot even begin to listen from love until we have directed the love into ourselves, until we have accepted the love that is within us. The science of mind says treatment is the act, the art, and the science of inducing thought within the mentality of the one treating, which thought shall perceive that the body of the patient is a divine, spiritual, and perfect idea. You know, practitioner, heal yourself. And I'm not talking about the licensed practitioners. I'm talking about all people who seem to be practicing this idea that is called the science of mind. Because how can you reveal love if you haven't revealed it to yourself? How can you stand and see love within another being if you can't see it within yourself? How can you know the wholeness of someone if you don't know the wholeness within yourself? If you do not see yourself as whole, it's impossible for you to sit across from someone else and see their wholeness. This is why we go through Prac 1 year of what I call a full life enema. And I will be teaching Prac 1 this fall. And though I have no intentions on giving anyone a physical enema, get that thought out of your mind. But it's letting go of your stuff. It's letting go of your mental baggage, your emotional baggage, all of your history, your ancestry's history, who owned a slave, who was a slave, who abused who, and who didn't know, and who was drinking, and who was hurt when somebody else was drinking, and all of that stuff that we carry around like it's Santa Claus's sack, and there's something good inside that we can't wait to deliver to somebody else, even though we're delivering it unconsciously. It's not a gift. So when you get to complaining about this and that, start to hear yourself. Start to hear yourself when you're talking. Here's what Edwin Gaines says in the 4 Spiritual Laws of Prosperity, which is our book of the month. She said, a wonderful spiritual teacher of mine named Charles once taught me a beautiful lesson. I had been in Unity about 3 months, and by that time I thought I knew everything. Nobody here. One Sunday after church, I went up to Charles and said, this church business is God's business, and it really needs to be done first class. I don't know who was responsible for vacuuming the sanctuary today, but it was a mess. And I don't know who made the coffee, but it was so strong you could have floated a horseshoe in it. And the soloist was completely off key. We can't even ever have her again. And there were at least 6 typographical errors in the bulletin. And I went on, she says. This great high holy teacher patiently listened to my long litany of complaints. Then he said, Edwin, dear, for you today, the highest metaphysical law in the universe is don't. It rhymes with itch and starts with a B. That was to be the starting point for her to be able to start to begin to be on a journey of unfoldment. And it was a great lesson to her. And out of that, she created a 21-day program of not complaining. I invite you into that 21 days of not complaining. 21 days of not complaining. Only if you want to be prosperous. 21 days of not complaining. And so no matter what happens, no matter what disaster falls, You know, we got different things coming up in 21 days, banters coming up within 21 days, a few other things, some town halls coming up within 21 days. Everything that occurs, you mark each day. And it says, I made the commitment that for 21 days I would not gossip, I would not criticize, I would not complain, not to others or even to myself if I could help it. I would not utter any negative language at all for 21 days. If you're up for being whole and prosperous, I invite you into that. But the other thing that she offers in her book, and I think this is so crucial for us right now, she offers a 2-week exercise of self-care and integrity. And in this commitment, it's about taking care of your well-being. Oh, we're going to take care of you at church. We're having a wonderful day called Well-Being Now, Release, Relief, and Relax on August 25th. Kawaza will tell you more about that. We have a wonderful person coming in, Asara Tasai, who is going to take us through a day of healing. But why don't you even start it before August 25th so that you have these 2 weeks of self-care and integrity. And in this 14 days, she gives you strive for order, take time for solitude, create beauty. There's different things that she gives you every day so that you can have a peaceful and harmonious mind. And so I invite you to really see yourself as that which is truly the presence of God. And to have the thought that you are a child of God, that's how you free the world. You know, the reason that Gandhi said, be the change that you want to see in the world is because we are the world. Don't you remember that song? There's nobody else that we need to look for to do it. It's me. It's me, oh Lord. And standing in the need of prayer, indeed. And it's not necessary for somebody else to pray for us if we're not praying for ourselves. You know, one of my students in self-mastery was asking, well, you know, do I have to believe in order to get the prayer realized? And I just, you know, I gave the whole class, who's in my self-mastery class? Yeah, I gave the whole class a copy of what the Science of Mind said. It's like if you could clear the debris out of your mental operations, then you will be more poised to receive your good. So, I'm just saying that, you know, however you've been perceiving yourselves, take yourself off the hook. You know, the Course in Miracles today, the lesson is, it can be but myself I crucify. Don't do that. Love you. You're beautiful. You're talented. You're creative. You're intelligent. You're giving. You're loving. I'm knowing this about you the more I get to know each one of you. You're passionate. You care. You know, you want to be here for the world's best. And you want to contribute to the world's best. You know, there's wonderful things that Ona talked about that we're doing. I wanted y'all to hear. I want y'all to hear the wonderful things that we're doing. Because some of it's been a secret to you for too long to know that your money has been going to help people beyond these walls. It's important for you to know that. But here's the deal. Faith without works is dead. But faith came before the works. It's not about you having a big S on your chest and look what I did. It's where am I giving from? Am I giving from a peaceful and harmonious mind? I am if I am in touch with the love that indwells me. I am if I know that the kingdom within is doing the work. So I invite you, just take a breath now, breathe in. Feel the presence of God. Feel His love beating your heart. It doesn't require you to do a thing. Just let it love you. Mother, Father God, infinite spirit, my joy, my freedom, my life, the love intelligence that is my very guide and my support. I know and accept that every love that is mine. And I give so much from the overflow of what I receive. For I am knowing that I am one with everything that is, everyone that is, whether it be two-legged, four-legged, three-legged, 100-legged. I am one with all of life. And in this understanding, in this knowing, I step forward in a great, grand, and glorious realization that it is the Father within me that does the work. It is this beautiful, bountiful grace that looks past any of my seeming limitations and fortifies me with the allness of what I need in order to step into being the arms, the legs, and the space of God. For I am knowing that God is ever present and that it is through me that I get to participate in the blessing of the world. I get to shine my light in the direction of each one whom I meet. I get to be the peace that I want to see. I get to embody the harmony that I want to realize in all of my relationships. And so I give such great gratitude for the understanding of this truth, knowing that the presence of God is preceding me and fulfilling me and moving me into my greatest yet to be. I give thanks for all that I am, all that I have, and all that I am becoming, for I know it is all God. And in gratitude, I lovingly release this word to the law, and I let it be. And so it is.
And so it is.
Amen.
Amen.
Namaste.